Yeah. Yeah, so right now it's recording as well. So hello again, hello to this training session. I'm going to talk about how OpenStreetMap OpenStreetMap data is structured, how you can define certain objects, or what to look for when you are looking for certain objects in OpenStreetMap. So it will be, I think, very crucial, both editing. While you are editing, it is quite crucial to make good edits, clear edits, while if you are applying correct tagging. I'm going to also talk about what tagging is. If you are not very familiar with OpenStreetMap, some of you are familiar with OpenStreetMap, might know the basics of it. Or let's say if you are developing an app that is developing a location-based app, and you are going to use certain layers of OpenStreetMap data, but you are not entirely interested in the entire OpenStreetMap data set. You are interested in a certain part of that data, certain layer that is crucial or important to you, so that we are going to go through how to define that data. And again, I said, hope it would be quite helpful for you for later on stages. So these are the introduction phases. Again, I introduced myself. I'm Can, OpenStreetMap trainer from Open Mapping Hub Asia Pacific. I'm based in Izmir, Turkey. This is my early morning. This is my early morning compared to you. I'm 2 hours and 45 minutes behind. So you can see my email address there. So if you have any questions later on, if you have any support in OpenStreetMap, you can get in touch with me through my email address, john.unen@osm.org. So there will be 3 parts. So in the first part, I'm going to talk about what are tags, the key value system, and sometimes we use tag combinations, and how to add tags in OpenStreetMap. So this is the quick outline for the first part of that training. So we use tags, we tag features to describe, sorry. I cannot move that, okay. So we tag features to describe various associated properties and attributes. So just like tagging your luggage, just like tagging, I don't know, if you are putting tags to identify your own luggage, etc., for example. So in OpenStreetMap database, in the database, the object, the geometric objects, the geometric features are also associated with certain tags, and those tags are defining what that object is. And if you are familiar with GIS, it is very it is how we have the attributes. It's how we put the attributes in the objects in OpenStreetMap database. And almost every natural or man-made feature that is visible or that we see can be represented in OpenStreetMap. So tags are consisting of keys and values to describe specific features of map elements. So you will be able to see, you are going to see this K equals V symbol a lot if you are also working with data, if you are going to be working with OpenStreetMap data. So key is generally defining a general definition, a general classification that the object is being in, and value is more specifically defined in what category under that specification, in what category under that classification that the object is belonging to. So building equals hospital, or amenity equals hospital, amenity equals pharmacy, amenity equals clinic, etc. This is how. So we are tagging amenities in OpenStreetMap, and while we are tagging amenities, in the value section, we are describing what type of amenity is that. So that key value syntax is very crucial while you are accessing OpenStreetMap data, or while you are adding new features, defining new features in OpenStreetMap. Both are free format texts, but they often represent features in a structured way. and they are following some agreed upon conventions on the meanings and uses of those tags. So although you can use any tag, it is text-based, so you can invent tags, etc. But there are the community guidelines, there are community standards that are applied while adding tags. So it is, imagine that there are 8 million, more than 8 million users. There are millions of or thousands of active users daily. And imagine that they are all of those users are inventing their own tags, inventing their own conventions. And look, think about what the data quality would be. So although you are free to do anything while you are tagging, it is text-based. There are, again, community conventions and community rules on which tags to be used on certain data. So when I say amenity equals restaurant, I'm defining that the object is an amenity. And when I say equals restaurant, I'm defining what type of amenity is it. So when I say building equals, yes, it is describing a generic building. So I don't know any detail about the building. I just maybe digitized it through the using the aerial imagery, but I don't know if it is a commercial building. I don't know if it's a residential building. I don't know if that building's a school, hospital, etc. On the field, I'm just adding data. I'm adding points of interest, and I'm mapping shops, and shop equals books is describing a bookstore. Amenity equals hospital is a tag to describe a hospital. Building equals residential. So right now I'm on the field, or this is somewhere that I know of. So this is where I have local knowledge on. So building equals residential. It is describing right now a building used for residential purposes. It's not just a generic building. It is specifically building for residential purposes, etc. So this key and value system is the backbone of OpenStreetMap data structure. So whatever data that we are defining, whatever data that we are going to define, whatever object that we are defining, we are going to put proper tags to define that object. From time to time, multiple tags are used to describe various different features of a map element. So there might be more details. For example, there's a bookstore, but what is the name of the bookstore? What is the phone number of that bookstore? What is the opening and closing hours of that bookstore, etc., etc., etc. So again, the level of detail that I can add is almost unlimited. So there is a name of that bookstore. So it can be John's Books, and there's a phone number. So again, as you can see, there are certain tags that we are using, and later on I'm also going to show you where you can check those tags, where you can check those conventions. I can add opening and closing hours of that bookstore. So it is from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, and between noon and 7 p.m. on Saturdays, let's say. If there is a URL, or if there's a website of that bookstore, if there's an email address for the bookstore, so I can have certain tags. So if there's a wheelchair access, so wheelchair equals yes, wheelchair equals no, etc. So it tells me the availability of that wheelchair access. So I can use multiple tags. So it is a little bit different from the tabular structure that you might be familiar with GIS. So instead of assigning data tables, etc., which is not very dynamic, which is not very fluid, but we use tagging in OpenStreetMap. So in OpenStreetMap data, there are tags, and there is no limit on tags that you can add to the data. So this is an example of a bookstore in Heidelberg, Germany. As you can see, there are lots and lots and lots of tags added. So there's the German name, there's the English name, there's the opening hours, there's the name of the operator. There are different payment methods. So you can pay by cash, you can pay by coins. You can pay by credit card, debit, Maestro, Master, etc. So there is the detailed address of that bookstore. So as I said, there is no limit in data that you can add to an object. So this object is an example, and if you go to Heidelberg, Germany in OpenStreetMap, you are going to be able to see that. And since the time I have prepared that slide, might have already changed, might have already new features and new information added, so that's also possible. So the key is used to describe a topic, category, or type of feature. The value provides detail for that key specified feature. So key can be shop, and the value is what type of shop is that. So value is describing more detail about the object. So it can be freeform, as I said, sorry. It can be freeform. It can be freeform, so it can be text-based. So you can add anything, but what you add, as I said, should make sense. One or more from a set of distinct values are generally used. So when you use shop key, the values for the shop are generally defined, and there are certain standards and distinct values that are used for certain shops. And the values are obligatory, so it cannot be empty. Key equals value. That pair is making up the tag, and they cannot be empty. So the key can be qualified with prefixes, infixes, suffixes that can form super or subcategories, like name equals Reisebuchladen, and name in German, name in German is Reisebuchladen, and name in English can be map shop. So as you can see, I can form subcategories for name tag. So this is the general name, but if there's a specific name in different languages, you can also add these language tags as well. Or the value can have multiple values, like opening hours. So I'm defining different time intervals for weekdays and different time intervals for weekends, for example. So Monday through Friday, it's 9 to 7, but on Saturdays, so I'm just adding another value, dividing, separating with a semicolon, so that it is giving me multiple values. So because for the opening hours key, I have multiple values for weekends and weekdays. Some elements need more than one tag to be used in combination to define them, and they are generally belonging to the same category. So I'm going to define like amenity equals place of worship. So it is defining places of worship. It is defining a place of worship unrelated to the religion. So it can be a mosque, it can be a temple, it can be a church, it can be a synagogue, etc. So all of them are places of worship in OpenStreetMap database. But if you want to specifically describe a temple, if you want to specifically describe a mosque, so you need to also add the religion tag for that. So some objects are not defined with single tags. You need to have tag combinations in order to define them. So if you just want to add a temple right now in OpenStreetMap data, there is not a tag that is defining that, like building equals temples, etc. But it is a place of worship, so amenity place of worship, and as another tag, as I'm using it to combination, you need to also add the religion Buddhism to that. Like sports pitches. So if you can have a tennis court, you can have a basketball field, etc. So all of them are leisure equals pitch. So if it is open to access, if they're open sports fields, etc., it is leisure equals pitch. Also football field as well, football, soccer, etc. So it is a sports pitch, but you're also supposed to add another tag describing which sports does it belong to. So again, those values, those objects are represented with multiple tags, with a combination of tags. So we also have that sometimes in OpenStreetMap. And if you are looking for that specific object, or if you are going to add that specific object, you need to be aware of also that tagging combinations. But it is not as hard, or it's not as complicated, so you don't need to memorize everything. So you might be familiar with ID editor, you might be familiar with JOSM. So if not, along the course you will be, I think. And instead of directly adding or editing tags, the contributors are choosing from presets or fill forms. So if you are using ID editor, in the ID editor, when you add an object, on the left panel, you are going to see a list. So it is going to be asking, what type of data have you added there? So what is the category? What is the key of that data? So from time to time, if you just select from that predefined presets, if that is having a tag combination, it is directly adding that. So if you are just, instead of place of worship, if you are looking for a temple, if you are looking for a Buddhist temple, or if you are looking for a mosque, etc., there, from the search, you can find that preset. And if you apply that preset, if there are a combination of tags, those combination of tags are automatically added. In JOSM, it is quite similar as well. So instead of directly adding and editing tags, you can go to presets on presets menu and look for general, most common object types as presets, so that from that presets you can choose. And if there are, as you can see, if there are tagging combinations, the tagging combinations are associated with there. If there are any additional supporting tags there, you can also add like name, levels, height of the building, etc. If you're adding a building, if there are other relevant but optional tags, you can also add that. Or if you know the tag, you can go and add edit directly there. So we can take a very short break in there. While during that, I will be preparing for the second part of the presentation. But if you are familiar with OSM, you might also have a look at and try to find if there are others. You look for tags, or if there are other combinations, etc. you might find. So for that, you want to, sorry, for that. You can check out wiki.openstreetmap.org. And when you go wiki.openstreetmap.org, if you just have a look at map features, so you can have a tea, coffee for 5 minutes, but while you are having your tea and coffee, just look at the map features section on the wiki.openstreetmap.org, because that map features page is the important and crucial part where the data standards are represented. We are going to go a little bit more detail in the following sections. But for example, if you go to a building, you see key value table. So building equals apartments. What is that tag describing? Building bungalow, what is that tag describing, etc. And if you are looking for specific objects, you might be interested in, for example, I don't know, recycling recycling containers, recycle containers, waste bins, etc. Or you might be interested in water canals, irrigation systems, etc. And you can have a look at how those data is defined there. And we are going to be talking in more detail in 5 minutes. And also, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them, ask through Nirav. Nirav and the other folks from HUT and the Hub might help you out on there, or they can just relay your question to me so that I would do my best to answer.
So John, seems like there is no question. What is the task for them?
The task is going through the wiki map features and have a look at the tags, and if they're interested in certain objects for their project and for their idea, might be finding what those tags are to describe those objects.
Okay, तपाईहरुलाई चाहिँ 5 मिनेटले एउटा टास्क छ हैन OSM को एउटा विकी म्याप फिचर्स भन्ने विकी छ त्यो विकीमा जानुस् अनि आफ्नो प्रोजेक्टको लागि OSM मा के डेटाहरु हुन्छ नि तपाईको प्रोजेक्टको आइडियाको लागि रेलेभेन्ट हुने म्याप फिचर्सहरु त्यसको चाहिँ ट्याग के हो त्यो कुरा चाहिँ एकचोटी पत्ता लगाउनुस् त्यो चाहिँ 5 मिनेटमा तपाईहरुले गर्नेवाला टास्क भयो OSM को म्याप फिचर्स भन्ने विकी हुन्छ हैन OSM विकी म्याप फिचर्स भनेर गुगल गर्नुभयो भने भेटाउनु हुन्छ हामी पनि हाम्रो भलन्टियर्सहरुले नि हेल्प गर्दियौ न है अड्किनु भयो भने मलाई बोलाउनु
Okay, so I'm back, and is anybody volunteering to give me an example? So what are you interested in? What data are you interested in, and how is that data represented in OpenStreetMap? So is there anyone who wants to volunteer and give that example?
So do you want them to share?
Maybe one volunteer. So what was that you are looking for, and what is it, and how is it represented? So when maybe one example, and we can move on.
So does anyone want to like share like some map features that they have identified for their project and how to tag it in OpenStreetMap? So what are the keys and values? So I think they'll need a couple of more minutes,
Okay.
John.
Okay.
Maybe 2 more minutes for them to do a bit of research, and then yeah. So does anybody want to share, like volunteer and share what? एक दुईटा ट्याग मात्र शेयर गरे नि हुन्छ धेरै सबै कम्प्रिहेन्सिभ हुनु पर्दैन केही कुराहरु आइडेन्टिफाई गर्नु भएको छ भने यताको तपाई So John, we have someone who is volunteering to share. Yeah, so
The keys are
So for the sustainable development, we have the key values here. Key would be amenity, and the values would be hospitals, schools, toilets, and the next one is boundary, and that has the values: national parks, forests, protected areas, administrative areas, border zone, and for buildings, it's residential, hospitals, schools, universities, and he would be for the other one, the key would be highway, and it includes all the highways, will require data of all the highways, and for land use, we need to know for the land use, it's the forest. So that's all.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for that quick demo, and thank you for that effort. So really, again, I don't know how knowledgeable everybody is in OpenStreetMap. Some of you might be having advanced knowledge. Some of you might be just at beginner level, just learning new. So I think there are different levels of people there. So it will become more and more easier and clearer for you if you are struggling right now in order to define the data, identify the data that you are going to use. But thank you for sharing that example. So in the map features, you have generally the common, and that is the general commonly used that is also in the community standards, the data that it was defined by the community and accepted by the community. So in the map features, you are seeing the standard data. So for example, education. If you are interested in education, general categories, so there are amenities, educational amenities that you see. It might be college, it might be kindergarten, library, school, university. But if you just click to that value as well, if you just go and click one more, you are going to see that amenity equals school, but how to define the other properties in the school there as well. So how to map, so if there's an operator, name of the operator, often the local education authority, operator type, it can be private, government, community, etc. The grades, minimum age, maximum age. You see there are lots of other tags in combination if you have more details and more information about the school. So if you just go there, have a look at it, you have a sense of what tags are also going to be used, or what data is also going to be used. Again, this is not limited. So if you have a project specific idea, if you have a project specific attribute that you want to associate it, that can also be possible. But if you, let's say, go to language, for example, school language, or if you go to language, if you just click once more, you also have an idea on how to define the language key in the school. So let me, I think it's my internet connection right now. Yeah. The links are not working. I don't know if I just open it in a new tab. Yeah, it works. So school gender, it can be mixed, female or male. So you are also seeing in detail the other subtags, other combination tags, how that can be used. Sorry. So again, in also the tagging. So I'm going to quickly demonstrate on ID editor. So I'm having some region in Turkey. I'm seeing some buildings, probably agricultural, I'm not sure. So I'm only going to map them as generic buildings. So I'm tracing the shape of the building as best as I can. So I'm tracing the building, I'm clicking enter, and on the left panel, it is asking me what type of building it is. So I had a session in Turkish the other day, so sorry about that. Let me just quickly update my language settings. Okay. Where was this? Where were these buildings? Yeah. So I'm seeing a building. I'm tracing that building. When I click enter on the left panel, it is asking what type of building it is. So if I just click building, it is in the tags, as you can see. So there's a form to fill, but below you can see the tags that are used. So building equals yes. So I have added a generic building. So if you just also switch to text view, you can see that is the key value syntax, building equals yes, that is there. So but let us say that it is not just a building, it is a hangar building. So right now it is associated with hangar tag, as you can see. So, but I'm just assuming that. So I don't want to put artificial information. I don't want to put unverified information into OSM. So I'm taking it back. So again, I'm adding an imaginary point like right now. So that area can be a mosque, let's say. So when I click that, when I go to tags, as you can see, there is a tag combination to define a mosque. So amenity equals place of worship. Building, yes, this is a building. This is a place of worship, and religion, Muslim. So when I define a mosque, as you can see, I am defining, it is putting more than one tag to define certain objects. So let's assume that there is also a tennis court there. I'm going to delete that data. I'm not going to upload that data because it is imaginary right now. So tennis court. When I click and add it as a tennis court, as you can see, you see the tag combinations. Leisure equals pitch and sports equals tennis. So some data, some type of data that we are representing with a combination of tags. So leisure equals pitch is not enough for that. So it is, as you can see, it is just a sports field with an unspecified type of sport, and the symbology is also changed. But when I add sport equals tennis, it has changed. It is more specific. So this is how I use those tag combinations. This is how things are defined, and I'm doing all of my imaginary edits here right now. Returning to the tagging practices, returning to our presentation. So we have talked about, and you had a small exercise on finding a tag. So we have already partially covered the first part of this part of this section, and then I'm going to talk a little bit about national or regional conventions on tagging, because some OpenStreetMap communities are tagging objects differently. For example, highways, because the highway classification might be different in that country, or the administrative boundaries, administrative levels. So I'm guessing the administrative levels and administrative regions that we have in Turkey are different than the administrative regions that you have in Nepal. So we need to also be aware of those regional conventions there. I'm going to talk about homonymous and synonymous keys. So what are those? And I'm going to talk about counterintuitive tagging a little bit. So there are sometimes tags in OpenStreetMap that don't make sense. That might also happen. So we are going to talk about most of them. So what to do, how to find the correct tag. So you have done the first step. You have checked the map features. So you don't have, when you don't have a preset for that, or forms don't help while editing. So you are looking for something specific. For example, how do I tag the opening hours? How do I tag, I don't know, the language that's speaking in that shop? So that shop, in addition to local language, for example, you are going to do a tourism map. And in that tourism map, you are also going to look for what languages are spoken in that shop. What languages can that shop serve customers, etc. So you might go and have a look at how that tag is associated. Or when you need to access existing OpenStreetMap data. So you are interested in the tennis courts in Nepal. So, but how to access the tennis courts? So when you are in need of that, when you are in need of clearly specifying the tags that you are interested, you look at the wiki. So you did the first step. So all of that information is documented in wiki, in OpenStreetMap wiki. And nobody ever expects us to memorize all of these tags, all of these rules, all of these methods. So it will come to you by time. If you are just working on a specific data set, then you memorize it. Then you intuitively be able to identify what tags are used there. But if you are not working on a specific thing, or for a certain project, if you are interested in a different type of data, etc., it's not expected you to memorize it. Nobody memorized. Somebody memorized them, but not all of the people do that. So you check the wiki. And it's also one other reason you check the wiki is that the thing that you might be memorizing might have changed. The community standards are not fixed as well. So from time to time, a community member might come up and say that, you know, that we are using this tag for that, but it is not very intuitive. It is not covering all of the possibilities. Right now, the tag might be out of date. So we might want to update it. So the tagging practices and tagging standards might also change within the community. So the wiki should be the place that you look at when looking at the correct way of tagging, because even though a tag might be used like that sometime for some time, but the community standards might be updated so that the tagging standards might also have changed. So wiki is a place for help documentation for you. Wiki is a place for technical documentation for you. And wiki is a place for promotional material if you are going to organize an OpenStreetMap event, etc. as well. So everything related to the OpenStreetMap project, you can go and check the wiki and find that there. So it's a documentation designed to provide guidance for map contributors and users. So the map features section that you have just checked in OpenStreetMap wiki is also the way you should first look for if you are looking for a certain tag. So it has the list of accepted tags by key meanings. There are proposed features, so they're not yet community standards, but they are proposed and they might become community standards soon. So when you look at the proposed features, so archived proposals by stage, so active proposals, active features. So I think these are the already accepted proposals. Yes. So as you can see, also the proposal stage is documented. So some user in 2007 has suggested that we are not mapping fountains. We are not mapping fountains in city centers, in city squares, etc. And that user has suggested a way to map fountains in 2007 in the earlier parts of OpenStreetMap. So that user said that we don't have a key and value structure to describe fountains, and I'm proposing this. And that proposal, there are comments, there are support, oppositions, and there is the voting, so that it becomes a community standard. Proposals by status, archive proposals, rejected, voting status. I think, yeah. So there is one active proposal right now, and the voting has started 2 days ago, and the voting is going to be continuing until 2nd of July. And pitch net. So it is a proposal to describe if there is a net for the tennis court, for example, if that tennis court has a net or not. So you can also that right now add, yes, there's a tennis court, but there's a net. Or if there's a volleyball field and the net is gone, you can say no. So there's a volleyball field, but there's no net, etc. So as you can see, this is a tagging for more detail for that volleyball field or tennis court. So there is a proposal going on right now. Or you can look at the rejected proposals with rejected status. So what do people want to map, but it was rejected? So this is also a very good place for you to look for. If you don't find what you are looking for, first you go to map features, then you go to proposals, then you can go to rejected proposals if somebody had already thought about that and it's suggested and it was rejected. So you also see what the rejected proposals, rejected tags look like. This doesn't mean that you cannot use that. You can still use that maybe, but it is not accepted as the community standard. Or if it is rejected, also there is also the reason giving why it is rejected. So that if there's a correct way of tagging in the rejection, you can also see the correct way of tagging as well. So these are, I'm describing these things to you in order for you to look for a methodology, let's say, or look for a train of thought while you are looking for certain tags. As I said, the tagging is open-ended. The tagging is text-based. So in the tags, instead of yes, I can just make a typo and I can write tests. So since this is text-based, this might also happen. These typos might also happen. So let's say instead of building, I'm saying building. I'm forgetting an N, and I'm just uploading it to OpenStreetMap. It will be uploaded. It will be uploaded to OpenStreetMap, and it will be a wrong tag that is being uploaded there. So these can also happen. Since this is a free format tag, since this is a free format text, these typos and errors can also happen, and there are errors and typos in OpenStreetMap. So you can also look at tag info. So when you go to tag info, it is showing you some popular keys, some popular categories that are used in OpenStreetMap. And you can also look for some errors and some errors and misuse of tags in there as well. So you can see the most common keys and tags that you've been using. And if you are, I don't know, undecided about using some sort of tag, for example, you are looking for hotels. So you see that there is in the OpenStreetMap database almost 400,000 counts of tourism hotel keys. There is also building hotel, building use hotel, disused tourism hotel, etc. So name hotel. So you can see different uses, and some of them might be errors, or some of them might be misuses, mistaggings, etc. So this is also showing you what tags are generally common in OpenStreetMap, because some tag does not have to be a community standard. Some tag does not have to be, might not be documented in Wiki, but it is still in use in OpenStreetMap. So tag info might help you on that. And if you go to reports, so characters and keys, database statistics, similar keys. So when you look at similar keys, so as you can see, the commonly used key is building, but rarely used keys is building. So you see that there is an error there. So this is also for quality assurance. So you find that you might find that errors in OpenStreetMap, or you might find the correct and wrong uses in OpenStreetMap as well.
Jan, can you zoom a little bit? Control plus.
Yep, okay. Is it better?
Yeah, much better, thanks.
Okay, so so when I click on building, you can see that the common uses, the common values combination. So generally building equals yes is the most common one. Building, house, residential, garage, detached apartments, etc. And if you just click on it, you can find more details about that. And if you go to that reports, you might find about errors in the data. So similar keys, as I said, so building, and I find that the misused tagging about there. So I can go there and find the exact data. I can find that data on the map, so that I can also correct those errors. So tag info gives you also an idea about which tags are in use in OpenStreetMap. Some of them are undocumented. So also you can frequently used keys without wiki page. So these keys are in use, but they don't have any wiki, they don't have any description and definition in the wiki. So tag info gives you lots of help, lots of idea about the existing tags in OpenStreetMap as well. Similar to tag info, you can use tag finder. So in tag finder, it's a little bit more user-friendly looking, a little bit more visually easier to use. So when I just click on hotel, so I'm just looking for how to tag hotels. So it has found 11 OpenStreetMap tags related to that, and it is giving me the most used and most dominant one in OpenStreetMap. So most of them is used and tagged as tourism equals hotel. It is coming with building equals hotel, a building designed with separate rooms available for overnight accommodation, etc. So if that building is only used as a hotel, you can use those tags. And also, but you need to add that combination of tourism equals hotel as well in order to describe the touristic amenity. You are seeing amenity equals hotel, which is an error, which is a misuse of the tag generally. So it is generally to be updated and corrected. So you can also find the wrong usages of that here as well. So, but tag info, like, I don't know, let's veterinary. It is describing you, it is giving you which tags to define, which tags to use, or which tags are used to define that veterinary clinic, etc. So tag info and tag finder would be also very helpful for you in looking for correct tags. In tag info, you can look at keys, the number of occurrences by data type, the wiki documentation for that. the prevalent values uses with the key. You can look at certain tags, number of occurrences per specific key and value combinations. And in the report sections, you can also have some Q&A. You can find about keys without wiki documentation, which can be potential errors, misuse, or unconventional tagging. Or you can look at similar keys or potential typos as we found in building. Tag Finder, we have gone through that. And if you want to look at, for example, I have heard highways from your project. So you are also interested in highways. So if your, let's say, project is involving both Nepal, Bhutan, and Bangladesh, 3 countries, but highway standardization and highway tagging might be different there. So from country to country, you might have different tagging guidelines or different tagging standards for highways, administrative levels, or other potential unique specific features. So from time to time, certain national communities are having their tagging schemes and tagging conventions on their own. So for that, it is a good source to go to tagging guidelines by country. So if you go there, as you can see, from country to country, you can see certain tagging guidelines. I'm looking for highways, but highway tag Africa, for example. So you see that for different regions, for different places, there are different definitions there. So one road segment might be a primary road in a rural area, one road segment without an asphalt surface, but it might be still a primary road in some certain regions. So in order to look for that, in order to look for local differences, etc., especially in highways, especially in administrative boundaries, the tagging guidelines by country or by regions is generally quite helpful. Spanish tagging guidelines, British tagging guidelines. So roads in the United Kingdom, for example, if that is documented, you can find that in Wiki. Search for highways. But be aware of the local context of it. So sometimes we have homonymous keys. Homonymous keys is some keys serve a different purpose or have a different data type depending on the primary tag of the element. In other cases, a homonymous key may have different semantics when tagged on a node one versus away. So it says that the same key might be defining different things in different situations. So for example, the department key. So when I use department, when used as a primary feature tag, it is identifying a section of a department store, etc. So the food department, the hygiene department, the meat and fish department, etc. But if you are using it with the building equals university, building equals college, etc., that is right now defining the department of the university, etc. So the same tag can be different things. So if you are searching for these tags, keep that in mind as well. But because if you are just first looking for department there, and if you are looking for all the data that is containing the department key, you are going to have also lots of garbage with respect to your with respect to your query there. So admin level. So when you are using the admin level in combination with boundary tag, it is telling you the administrative level of that boundary. But if you are using with the government tag, it is if you are mapping a government office, for example. Right now, the administrative level is describing you the government unit that is operating that feature. It might be the national government, it might be the city governorship, it might be the municipality, etc. So there are different levels of government as well. So admin level might be describing you the level of the government. Capacity might be also different. So if you are looking for a parking lot, for example, in the parking lot, the capacity might define how many cars can be parked there. But if you are looking for a storage tank or a water tank, for example, the capacity might be in liters, in tons of how much water, how much liquid can be stored, etc. So there is the same key that might be used for defining different things depending on what key combination that is used with it. And for data quality purposes, that might be also important for you. From time to time, we have synonymous tags, which have the same meaning, but there is no consensus to use only one of them. And they are both describing the same object. So if you are looking for a certain data set, you should also check if there are synonymous tags associated for that. So amenity equals nursing home, and amenity equals social facility, and social facility equals nursing home are the same things, are describing nursing homes, but there is no certain consensus on which tag is a standard tag. So both of them are used. And as you can see, the number of uses there. So one of them has been used 13,000 times, and one of them has been used 20,000 times. Both of them are dominant tags, but both of them are describing nursing homes, but there is no consensus in between. Both of them are correct tags. So if you are doing a field study, so in the field, you may add check date or survey date. Both of them are showing the same things. Both of them are describing the same things. So we might have from time to time tags that are describing the same things. So land use equals basin, or natural equals water, water equals basin. So again, this is describing again the same thing. Land use recreation ground and leisure recreation ground, both of them are rendered, both of them are shown on the map, and both of them are valid. So as you can see, OpenStreetMap is a community project. OpenStreetMap is an organic project, and OpenStreetMap is also evolving and developing with the community. So from time to time, these kinds of occurrences and these kinds of imperfections are also available in OpenStreetMap. So if you are looking for a certain type of data, I suggest that you also be mindful about these details and these errors. And we might have counterintuitive tagging sometimes. In some cases, the literal meaning of the word mismatches the intention of the tag. So you understand something different, but the tag is telling something else. So house number tag, for example, we are using for door numbers of buildings, we are using the house number, address, house number tag for that. But it is not just used for houses, it is used for all types of buildings. So this is an example of a counterintuitive tagging. You are also adding a door number of a school, door number of a hospital with the house number tag. Leisure equals nature reserve. So it is, the natural reserves are also tagged like that, but it is protected area. It's not for leisure purposes, but you still tag under leisure key. Natural beach. It is used for any kind of beach. That beach might be artificial, might be man-made. It might not be a natural beach, but it is still added as natural equals beach. Entrance equals exit. I like this a lot. So if you have a door of a building. If there's a door of a shop, of a hospital, of a school, of a building, etc., we are using entrance keys for that. But if that opening is only used for exit purposes, if there's one entrance, one exit, you also tag the exits as entrance equals exit, and it is quite counterintuitive in that sense. So we can take a 5-minute break again, or we can continue with the last part of it, depending on how distracted you are, how tired you are. Nirab, what do you say? Can we continue with good practices, or
We have 20 more minutes.
we have 20?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm continuing, and then maybe we can have some time for quick questions and discussions.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Okay, so good practices: inventing new tags, proposing new tags, and create tools and processes. So I'm going to try to run through them quickly. So it is a free project done by volunteers, and you can enter anything you wish, but it is not suggested. The map works best when participants agree on a code of conduct, and these are called good practices, and they are guidelines that will increase the quality and value of the map data. And you can just check out the links. I'm going to share the PDFs, share the presentations with you for your reference. There are lots of links and references for you, and you might want to go and check out the good practices while working with OpenStreetMap data. So when you see errors, correct them. Be bold and edit the map to reflect the current situation. You might make small mistakes, so it can always be refined, come back, corrected when needed, but be respectful to the work done by other mappers and consider consulting them, especially when existing data is just tagged with unclear, undocumented methods or tags. So if you find an error, or if you find a misdocumented tag, instead of first deleting that, what it's saying is that try to get in touch with that mapper. So there might be some intention for that tagging, but it's not documented, or it's not a standard way. So before deleting stuff, it is saying that just first try to get in touch with the original mapper. And instead of removing the data, because finding and restoring deleted stuff is harder, but what we generally suggest is to modify existing data. So if, let's say, where is my OpenStreetMap? Yeah. So let's say that this building is mapped like that. And I find it in OpenStreetMap and there's an error. So what I need to do is, so instead of deleting and redrawing that, what I need to do is I need to modify the building, modify the geometry so that it matches, because this data has a history. This data has a history behind that. This might also have additional tags under that. So instead of deleting and redoing, what I'm suggesting is that you modify, you correct the existing data, you correct the existing mistakes. Don't use name tag to describe things. So if you want to describe and take notes, there are descriptions or note tags for that. So instead of using name, so if you are on the field and if there's a track, name equals track is a wrong use of it. So you should have the feature highway equals track. But if you want to take some notes, if you want to describe it further, you can always use the note tag. You can take notes in the data. So you can use a note tag for that as well. When you are doing your uploads, when you are doing your edits, provide good comments. A good change set comment should concisely and adequately describe and edit. And it should be done out of courtesy to fellow mappers to avoid misunderstandings. So when I add those buildings, I can just save and upload without saying anything. And other users might not be aware of what I'm doing, and out of courtesy and out of understanding what I have done in my change set, I am just saying added new buildings to the map. I'm describing what I am doing when this change set and uploading to OpenStreetMap. Again, keep the history of the data. So if you are looking for, if you go and look for certain data sets, for example, this major highway. So when I view that data in, where is that? See the history of that. There are 3 versions of it. So the first version is created 8 years ago by a different user, and these edits were made. The second version was made 7 years ago, and these were the changes that were made. And 6 years ago, another change, another modification have been done by this user. So as you can see, there's also a history of that data. And if I delete that data, I'm also deleting the history of the data. I'm also deleting the progress of that data over time. So it is also good to keep the history of that data. So instead of deleting and redoing something, I'm always suggesting modifying and correcting the errors in the existing data. Do not remove the tags that you don't understand. So that might be tags, mistakes that you might be identifying, like the building tag that we have seen. So instead of building, they have building. So it needs to be corrected. But if you don't understand, that might be tags you don't understand. It doesn't mean that you should remove them. They might be used for a specific purpose. They might be put there to identify specific data or a specific project. So if you don't understand, before deleting, it is again suggested to get in touch with the mapper. And if you are inventing new tags, if you are going to define your new tags, just document that. Document that in the wiki so that other people might be able to see and understand that. And from time to time, you might need to invent new tags. And if that time comes, if you need to put a new tag, if you need to define a new tag that is not in OpenStreetMap for your project, we can talk about it later when we reach that advanced steps. But first, look at the wiki, look at the map features, look at the proposed features, look at the rejected features, and look at tag info if you want to look for specific tags that you want to use. So this is the way to go. This is the way to go. Not everything is in map features, not everything is in wiki, but it might still be in use. So proposed features, rejected features, tag info, etc. Might be a place for you to look at. If you still don't see the tag that you are going to use, if you don't see the detail level that you are going to use, that you want to add, you can look for adding, inventing new tags and proposing new tags that time. And if you do counterintuitive things, the editors in ID editor, the JOSM editor, etc., are warning us for specific errors. So it is also suggested that you use that validator. If you are a JOSM user, if you're an advanced editor using JOSM, use the validator. Before uploading your changes, just run a validation check and see that validation check is giving you what types of errors that you are doing. And in OpenStreetMap, in ID editor, let's say, be mindful about the errors that you are giving. For example, if I'm adding a building, I'm adding an imaginary building right now. And if I want to update, oh, it doesn't say me anything. So the building shouldn't be like that. But if, let's say, I create a building and that building is, let's say, yes, so the building is crossing the road. So it is warning me. So keep mindful of those data quality issues, etc. So don't ignore this issue. Don't ignore those issues without reading what is that. Or don't ignore those issues and correct those issues. So if 2 features are overlapping each other. That might be an error, etc. Or you might be making a tagging error using counterintuitive tags, etc. But when you are going to save and upload, you are going to see a warning there, and be mindful of that warnings while working with that data. And returning back to my presentation, if you have any further questions, please feel free to get in touch with me through john.unen@hotosm.org. Nirav and other folks there will be also there to help you in those issues, etc. And if you follow that link, tinycc/AP help desk. So it is also, there's also direct to a Google form that you can book a session with me. Book a help desk session with me where we can focus one-on-one on your specific issues. So feel free to also go through there, connect with me, and if you have any specific questions, we might sit down to it together so that we might look for a solution for that. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your session. I hope it was helpful for you. If you have any questions, we can go through that. We can also later on go through like defining tagging process in JOSM, etc. Because Nirav, it was quite also helpful. You also previously suggested that. I didn't know how the level of experience there in the room at this moment, so I skipped that part.
Yeah, so do we have any questions for John regarding tagging? So your tagging भनेको चाहिँ एकदम बेसिक कुरा हो हैन तपाईहरुलाई चाहिँ यो किन इम्पोर्टेन्ट छ भने जुन एप्लिकेसन तपाईहरुले बनाइरहनु भएको छ त्यसको डेटा यदि ओपनस्ट्रिटम्यापमा रिप्रेजेन्ट गर्ने हो भने चाहिँ त्यसलाई कसरी रिप्रेजेन्ट गर्ने हैन त्यो रिप्रेजेन्ट गर्दाखेरि नुआन्सहरु छ नि हैन जस्तै होमोजेनियस ट्यागको कुरा गर्यो उले हैन अनि सिनोनिमस ट्यागहरुको कुरा गर्यो त्यो नुआन्सहरु के छ त्यो कुरा थाहा पाउन इम्पोर्टेन्ट हुन्छ के त्यसले गर्दाखेरि तपाईको त्यो टुलमा लिएर आउने तपाईको डेटाको क्वालिटीहरु छ नि त्यसलाई एफेक्ट गर्छ सो यो हामी यो प्रेजेन्टेसन पनि शेयर गर्छौं के क्वेशन भयो भने हामी त्यो स्ल्याकमा पनि कुरा गरौँ म जॉनलाई पनि स्ल्याकमा इन्भाइट गर्छु सो त्यसबाट पनि हामी कन्भर्सेसनहरु कन्टिन्यू गर्न सक्छौं अनि अर्को कुरा चाहिँ के हो भने यो अन्डरस्ट्यान्ड गर्न किन पनि इम्पोर्टेन्ट छ भने पछि हाम्रो सेसनहरु जुन जाँदै जान्छ नि यही ट्यागकै कुरामा बिल्ड हुँदै जान्छ कि अब यो ट्याग तपाईले बुझिसकेपछि यो डेटाहरु क्वेरी गर्नलाई तपाईले ट्यागहरु युज गर्नुपर्ने हुन्छ हैन सो पछाडीको सेसनहरु पनि यो बिल्ड हुने जाने भन्नाले यो तपाईले अलिकति बुझ्नलाई चाहिँ इम्पोर्टेन्ट छ बुझ्नु भएको छैन भने केही छैन हैन अलिकति बुझेर अलिअलि के क्लियर भएको छैन भने चाहिँ हामी छौं हामी तपाईलाई हेल्प गर्छौं यो क्ल्यारिटी डेभलप गर्नलाई सो अहिलेलाई चाहिँ जॉनलाई हामी थ्यांक यू भनेर एकचोटी राउन्ड अफ अप्लोज पनि थ्यांक यू So thank you, John. We'll be adding you to a Slack channel where everyone is present, and then if they have any queries related to tagging, so you can help them there as well.
Sure. Yeah. So I will be very happy to follow up and address any issues and questions. And just keep those in mind. I'm also going to share the PDFs of today's presentation. So when you are working with data, I think tomorrow's session, the other day's session, you are going to dive deeper in how to access that data, how to utilize that data in your projects and apps that you might be developing. So that keep in mind that there are certain issues, there might be certain issues, and there might be certain data quality issues that you might face, and be mindful about the tagging structure and the potential errors that are in the tagging structure. So feel free to get in touch with me anytime. Thank you, and I wish you a very productive week and very productive Hackfest for everybody. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you, John.
Thank you very much.